So I'm standing at the top of the monument at Majdanek, which gives a panorama over the former concentration camp, and from here you get a very good idea of how big it actually is. And this isn't everything. So starting off with the buildings we can see in front of us, we have there the administrative buildings where they do the historical work. I was in there today and I was really impressed by what was actually going on in there. Very, very impressive from a historical point of view. Certainly making a lot of effort. We've got next to it, we've got this a cemetery, which is a public cemetery. It's still being used. People are being buried there. I think it's a rather unfortunate place to be buried in the circumstances, right next to this concentration camp. But maybe it was the only available land at the time it was actually put there. I'm unable to say. Got this big empty area in front. I'll bring in the camera a bit more for that. And that's where the Nazis intended to extend the camp, but they didn't actually get around to doing it. Except there was an area, a field at the very top, but the others, it stayed empty. Now here we have this awful thing here. It looks like a UFO's just landed. In fact, that's meant to be the Mausoleum, which was built there in the late 1960s. Can't quite understand the point of why it looks like that. Now, as you can hear in the background, now there's a church nearby, and that's nothing to do with the camp. It's just because there's a church nearby. So in front now we've got a crematorium, and that was the crematorium was at the very top of the camp. Now next to them, where the mausoleum is today, that's where the people were murdered on the 3rd of November 1943 in the Interfest massacre, which followed the escape from the Soviet war death camp, which on the 14th of October 1943, and Himmler ordered the murder of all the Jews in the area. He passed this order on to Kruger, who was head of the police, who passed it on to Sporenberg, who was head of the police in the Lublin area. Kruger was head of the police in the occupied Poland, general government, and Sporenberg, who gave quite a lot of information on what actually happened here. He was captured in southern Norway by the British. He was actually taken to London. He was held in the London cage. He was handed over to the Poles. He was tried and he was executed in I think it was 1952, if I remember rightly. There we have views of the camp, and you can see how close the town is to where we are. Very, very close. And coming back around, we've got a big chimney there. That's the I imagine that's the central heating plant, and actually I don't know that, I'm just guessing. And here we have more blocks of flats. The Lublin's population in 1939 was approximately 120,000 people. Now 40,000 or so of them were Jews, and they were murdered during the Second World War. Nonetheless, by 1945 the population is still around 100,000, which suggests a net immigration of 20,000 people. Since then it's grown quite a lot, and it's now almost 300,000 people. So the population has grown very rapidly, and there's a need to house them, and this is the way it's actually grown in this direction above all. So at the time that this was a concentration camp, people weren't living this close. They were living close, but they weren't living this close. The area in front of me, which is down there towards the city centre, is in 1942 was all part of the domain of the concentration camp itself. Indeed, to my right there's an area which was the former Lublin airfield, which surprisingly enough was built on a hill, and there we had the belongings of the people who were murdered from Treblinka, from Sobibor, from Belchitz. They were actually stored there, sorted there. Next to it was the ghetto of Majdan Tatarsky, and people were taken there from the Lublin ghetto in April 1942. There we have a quick look round. And there's somebody who escaped from Sobibor.